Hey, welcome back. If you haven't been shooting for very long, I've got news for you, and that is barrels wear out over time. If you aren't new to shooting and you've been through several barrels already, you probably don't even need to watch this video because I'm going to tell you things that you're already doing. On the other hand, if you're a newer shooter that hasn't put 10 or more barrels on a gun over time, you might want to listen up because there's a few techniques here that might help you as your barrel progresses through its lifetime. As you can imagine, a barrel wears from all of the heat and erosive material and friction from bullets going down the bore. And that wear causes some effects, some deleterious effects to your precision over time. But it can also cause some deleterious effects that you may not be aware of until all of a sudden the rifle's out of tune. Now, I don't want your rifle to go out of tune on you. Instead, I want you to be able to maintain it in tune throughout its entire life, so you always get the performance that you want out of the rifle. That is until the barrel wears out. And that's going to be the last thing we're going to talk about today, and that is the symptoms that the barrel is just done, or at least the ones that I use to determine when to pull a barrel off because of wear. So if you're like me and you chronograph on a frequent basis anything going through a barrel, you're going to find out that the velocity is going to start dropping after maybe 500 rounds. It drops very, very slowly. But if you get to midlife on a barrel around 1,000 rounds and decide you're going to scrub it to bare steel, all of a sudden you're going to see this huge drop in velocity that's never going to come back. I specifically did this on purpose with a 6 Dasher barrel just to demonstrate the effect. So let's start from brand new with a Dasher barrel. As I said in my previous video, when I started it was slow, and we expect it to speed up in that first 100 to 300 rounds of life. In my case, I had to reduce my charge from 31.4 to 31.0 as it sped up in order to maintain that same in-node speed of 2,858 feet a second. Now, that's not the total story. After 300 rounds, by about 700 rounds, I was starting to see a slight decrease in the velocity. We were down to 2,853. I shot it a few more times, getting out to about 900 rounds, and decided that it was time to go ahead and demonstrate what happens when you scrub a barrel to bare steel. After scrubbing that barrel down, it dropped to 2,825. This is not a result of the abrasion, it's a result of removing the carbon from the throat. Now, that carbon can have a deleterious effect on precision over time because it constricts the throat, making a tight spot. And then the barrel goes through the tight spot and gets swaged into that and goes into the loose rest of the barrel, and you get bad precision. So you want to get that throat clean at some point, at least several times during the life of a barrel. So down to 2,825 we went, and it stayed there. I shot over 100 rounds through the rifle, and it stayed at 2,825. This is not something that it's going to carbon up and come back from. It just simply will not come back to where it was unless you get it extremely dirty, at which point you're going to have precision problems. So instead of dealing with that, let's go ahead and keep the barrel cleanish, and then we'll just increase the charge to get the velocity back. Now, this is my preferred way of doing it. Just increase the charge to get the velocity back and see if the precision is still there. And in my case, it's still shooting one hole groups at 1,000 rounds at 31.4 and 2,857 feet per second. So I don't have any need to make any other adjustments to my load at this point, and I won't during the entire life of the barrel because I don't chase the lands when I'm jumping bullets. And in this rifle, all I'm doing is jumping bullets. Now, if you're jamming bullets, you're going to have to chase the lands to stay in a jammed condition because getting back too far and getting to just touching or just tickling the lands is going to give you huge ES and SD numbers and cause you all kinds of chaos and mayhem that you don't want in your load. So if you are one of those people that jams the lands like I do when I'm shooting VLDs, go ahead and make sure you are chasing those lands appropriately to stay up in the lands where you need to be in order to keep your pressures consistent and steady. But that doesn't absolve you of having to increase the powder charge over time because the wear on the barrel is going to cause you to move the bullet further and further and further out, and that's going to increase the combustion chamber just a little bit. You're going to end up having to increase that charge anyway. And that's why I don't chase the lands when I'm jumping bullets. Chasing the lands makes you move the seating depth. That makes you test seating depth all the time. At the same time, you're going to have to move the powder charge as well. So you're having to adjust two things instead of just one, and that doesn't seem like a beneficial situation to me. It never was in F class, and it isn't in PRS either. So when jumping bullets, I only move the powder charge until the rifle tells me that it will not shoot at its current seating depth. And that's virtually never in most of the barrels that I've shot. So here's the crux of it. Do it the easiest way possible. Change your powder charge first in order to regain the lost velocity from the barrel wear and see what you get. If you're getting the precision back, you don't need to do anything else, and I rarely have to. But sometimes some barrels just don't like anything, and they are very unhappy barrels, or you're shooting bullets that are a little sensitive, and you might have to do some seating depth testing as well. For me, I try to shoot the most generous bullet I can find, the one that is most forgiving and easiest to work with, so I don't have to do all that excess work. That's why I'm using hybrid bullets. they're just easy to get along with. Tangent ogives as well are very easy to get along with. But if you get into secant ogives, you are going to have some challenges. That's the nature of VLD bullets and certain manufacturers' bullets. They're just a little touchy, and you're going to have to do some more testing to keep them in tune and keep them shooting well. If that's your choice of bullets, you're going to have to work with it. And it's not something that can't be done. I've shot VLDs extensively in F-class, and they work just fine, even when jumping. But that's a whole different conversation and a different video. So I'm sure someone's going to post in the comments below, why does it slow down? And my answer to that is, doesn't matter. It's just observed behavior of the barrel that I've observed over many, many, many barrels. They all do exactly the same thing over time. Now, the rate at which they do it changes from barrel to barrel, cartridge to cartridge, and even diameter to diameter. But the key is the barrel's going to slow down as it gets older, which is going to force you to increase your powder charge in small increments over time. You can't just plan to go up a tenth every so many rounds. It doesn't seem to work out very well. I've tried that before. It didn't work for me. But chronographing every once in a while when you're out shooting the rifle, or maybe every time you go to the range, is a good idea. That way you can keep track of what your velocity is, and you can start to see the indications that you're going to go out of tune before you get out of tune, and you can increase your charge to get back into the middle of your node before you ever see a deleterious effect on your precision downrange. Okay, theory time for those of you that really want to know why. The key here is the erosion to the throat, in my opinion. Now, this is an opinion, a theory, and a guess on my part. There is absolutely no data anywhere that's really scientific that says what's going on. So hear me out here. It's just an opinion. My opinion is the erosion to the throat is effectively increasing the amount of gas bypass around the bullet as it's engraved into the rifling. That increased bypass is reducing the overall maximum available gas for pressure, and it's reducing your velocity. That's my guess. Yours might be different, and I always reserve the right to be wrong on things like this. So what is there to do about this? How do you offset this velocity change or maybe manage it better? Well, there's a couple things you can do. In PRS, this is not critical. In F-class, it might be for you, depending on what you're shooting. So in F-class, I tend to scrub barrels to bare steel on a more frequent basis than I do in PRS. For instance, I would scrub a .284 barrel to bare steel every 500 rounds. On the PRS rifle, I do it at 1,000 rounds and maybe again at 1,500 and then again at 2,000. And we'll see how it's shooting at that point. The key here is it's going to take more frequent cleaning as it gets older, which leads me to the next subject, and that is, how do you tell barrels worn out? I mean, we can't tell with a borescope. I can borescope barrels that look like a dog's been chewing on it, and it shoots great and has good longevity for that precision over time. So you can shoot 200, 300, 400 rounds and still have good precision, and it's just not done yet. So how do you figure out that it's worn out? Well, here's my key elements. The first is massive loss of velocity. Lose 150 to 200 feet a second total from where you started, and you're losing velocity very quickly over time because the erosion rate increases as the barrel ages. The next thing is a barrel that won't stay clean enough to hold precision throughout an entire match. For example, if you're shooting F-class and it won't hold its precision together for 100 consecutive rounds, it's probably time for a new barrel. And the last one is a personal preference thing, and that is if the barrel is just a pain to clean. When they're new, they're pretty easy to clean typically, and as they get older, they get more fire cracking, and that more fire cracking tends to grab onto more material, vaporize more copper, and deposit it all throughout the bore, even the part that isn't fire cracked down toward the muzzle. When that becomes too burdensome to clean out every time, where you're sitting there soaking with solvent for days on end, it's time to just get rid of the barrel and get a new one to make it much easier to clean so you aren't wasting your time waiting for the barrel to clean when you should be out shooting, reloading, or doing something else productive. And the last reason that I spin a barrel off is preemptive removal. Now, when I do preemptive removals, I put the barrel away for future use, for practice, or even competition. In this case, I'm taking a barrel off that might wear out during a major or just before a major match, leaving me high and dry, and instead put on a new barrel a little early so that I can have a newer, fresher barrel for a big match. Later on, I'll take that newer barrel back off and put the old one on and finish it off when it is, well, convenient for me. So guys, leave me a comment below. How do you deal with an aging barrel? Do you chase the lands? Do you change a powder charge? Or do you just leave the load where it is until the thing just shoots like garbage and then have to redevelop it? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, shoot straight, keep track of that barrel because it does change over time, and I'll see you in the next video.